she looked at me and she said, "That's the moment I started praying for you and your dad." So I decided I would forever want to live in the Pacific Northwest. So when I decided to become a physical therapist, I applied to school in a few different places, one of them being Loma Linda, because my parents lived down here as well. Even from the beginning, I was just going to only be here for the 3 years of the program, and then I would go right back up to the Northwest and find a job. Well, as I was getting close to graduating, I learned that my uncle was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And at that time, I just decided, you know what, I want to be around my family when we're all going through this. And so I said, well, okay, God, I will stay here for a year. And if everything is doing well, then I'll move back up to the Northwest after I have some experience. Thankfully, my uncle was doing really well. He had come through his treatment. And so I said, you know what, okay, it's been a year. I told God I would be here for a year. Now it's my time to move up to the Northwest. I started looking around, trying to find jobs, and I got to the point where nothing was really working out. And so I said, okay, God, if I'm not supposed to be in the Northwest, you're gonna have to let me know. A year passed, and then a couple months kept going by, and I said, okay, God, I haven't forgotten that I told you I'd be here just for a year, right? And so I remember a time I texted my mentor that had been my clinical instructor, and I told her, I was like, hey, I'm thinking about going up to the Northwest, but my one thing would be if a job opened up at Loma Linda, I would definitely stay because that would be a dream job. And she's like, I'm so sorry, there aren't any job openings right now, but I'll definitely keep you posted and let you know. A couple more months go by, and I remember one night I just told God, I really mean it. If you do not want me to move to the Northwest, I'm gonna have to know because I'm gonna start just sending my resume out to everywhere in the Northwest. A few weeks later, they announced that they were gonna open up a whole new position. And if I hadn't waited for that, I might have already moved out. Through the process of interviewing and things, I was so excited to be able to get the job and have loved working there. I still didn't know why I was in Southern California. Well, in 2018, I got news in July that my dad was diagnosed with cancer. It just kind of struck me, took me by surprise, because my dad has always been the healthy one, and so it kind of shook us all. I was like, okay, no, you know what, this is good. I'm glad I'm here. God's got this. I still had a real strong sense of peace, like it's gonna be okay. He went through surgery in July of 2018, and when they were in surgery, they found out that it had already spread, and so they classified him as stage 4 cancer. And that was really surprising. And I just kept thinking, wow, God, thank you so much for having me stay. It was tough to see him go through all of that, but I was, again, so grateful. And I look back and say, wow, God totally had me here for a reason. I started coming to Azure Hills right around that time that my dad was diagnosed. Church is happening, I'm drawing the sermon, so I have a picture of it after the service so that I can kind of look back and remember what was being said. And so I remember one of the Sabbaths, I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna show Pastor Tara like the visual representation of her sermon. And she was just so warm and welcoming. This is one of the first times I met her. And I just kind of said it. I was like, you know what, my dad's going through a recent diagnosis of cancer, and I just really appreciate your leadership and encouragement in church. I honestly don't remember that conversation until at the end of last year. And she's like, I remember you having a conversation with me and telling me your dad's diagnosis. And I just looked at her like, how do you remember that? I don't even remember telling you that. And she looked at me and she said, that's the moment I started praying for you and your dad. And every time I tell this story, I just get so emotional because to hear that story and how she's just kind of prayed us through when I didn't even know is just another example of how God was working behind the scenes. I just looked at her and said, wow, thank you so much. And then she told me, she said, my dad died from cancer and I just didn't want the same story for you. And that's like the essence of church, is to be to be there for each other and to walk each other through hard times. And I know my story is different because thankfully my dad is doing really well. He's made it through all of his treatments and he's continued at work. And I know that's not the story for a lot of people. He's guiding us to be in certain places at certain times. So I know that I'll be able to be there for someone because of my experience with going through this with my dad. I think God speaks to us and is there with us in ways that we need. So I don't know how long I will be in Southern California, but for now I'm super content with knowing that God has placed me here for a specific purpose, and I'm looking forward to seeing what God has in store for me next. My name is Lisa McMillan, and this is my story.
I'm Pastor Tara Van Cross, and we're so glad that you've tuned into our Azure Hills Church YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe, and click on the bell so that you'll be notified every time we share new videos. We are so glad that you're here. Until next time, please know that we're praying for you as you continue to be a voice of hope.